Hello everyone, welcome back to our philosophy series where we dive deep into fascinating ideas and explore the minds of some of history's greatest thinkers. Today we're delving into the world of Peter Frederick Strawson, a British philosopher known for his work in descriptive metaphysics. In particular, we're going to explore Strawson's theory of basic particulars and his intriguing ideas about the concept of persons. So, let's start with a bit of context. Strawson, in his influential book Individuals, published in 1959, introduced the idea of descriptive metaphysics. Now, you might be wondering what exactly is descriptive metaphysics? In simple terms, descriptive metaphysics is about describing the structure of our thoughts about the world. Instead of trying to create new frameworks or theories to explain reality, descriptive metaphysics examines how we naturally think about the world, how our everyday concepts are structured. Strawson believed that before we even start theorizing, there is a certain underlying structure in how we perceive the world, and our task is to describe this stripe. One of the main points in Strawson's work is the importance of persons in our conceptual framework. Strawson argues that persons are what he calls basic particulars. But what does that mean? To understand this, let's first break down the concept of basic particulars. In traditional metaphysics, a basic particular is something fundamental, something that does not depend on anything else for its existence. Traditionally, philosophers considered physical objects like a chair or a tree as basic particulars. Strawson, however, takes a different view. He argues that persons are more fundamental than objects or material substances. Strawson's view is a bit revolutionary here. He's saying that the concept of a person is not reducible to a set of physical or mental properties. We don't simply think of people as bodies, nor do we think of them as collections of mental states like thoughts, emotions, and intentions. Instead, a person is a unified whole, a single entity that possesses both physical and mental characteristics without reducing to one or the other. This idea contrasts with reductionist approaches, which try to explain persons solely in terms of physical components, like saying a person is just a body with some neurons firing, or solely in terms of mental experiences, like saying a person is just a collection of thoughts or consciousness. Strawson argues that this reductionist view doesn't capture the whole picture. He claims that the concept of a person is fundamental because it's a concept we cannot do without. In our daily life, when we interact with others, we don't just see them as physical bodies or minds, we see them as persons. This perspective is essential for our social interactions and our understanding of identity and self. To make this more relatable, let's consider an example of human-robot interaction. Imagine you're talking to a highly advanced robot that looks and behaves almost exactly like a human. At first glance, you might be able to treat this robot as a person. After all, it speaks, it reacts, and it even expresses what appear to be emotions. But deep down, you know that this robot doesn't have genuine feelings or thoughts. It's just a complex arrangement of circuits and algorithms designed to mimic human behavior. Now compare that to how you interact with a real person. Even if a person seems to be just as predictable as a robot at times, you wouldn't reduce them to a set of physical processes or psychological responses. Or can you recognize them as a person, a unique individual with thoughts and experiences that are inseparable from who they are? According to Strawson, this intuitive recognition of personhood is something essential to our understanding of the world. He would say that our concept of persons is not merely an added feature on top of physical and mental attributes, it is the framework through which we see the world. So it's the basis for concepts like responsibility and identity. We don't just add up physical and mental traits to form a person. Rather, personhood is an irreducible concept that gives context and meaning to those traits. This irreducibility of personhood, according to Strawson, is what sets his descriptive metaphysics apart. Now, we can't simply explain away the concept of a person by referring to scientific or psychological theories. For Strawson, persons are the basic building blocks of our social and moral world. It's through this lens of personhood that we see ourselves and others as unique, irreplaceable beings, not just collections of atoms or bundles of mental states. To contrast Strawson's view with traditional reductionist approaches, let's think about how some philosophers attempt to reduce persons to either their physical or mental properties. Take the physicalist approach, for example, which claims that everything about a person can be explained in terms of their physical body and brain activity. In this view, the mind is just the brain, and all our experiences can be reduced to biochemical reactions. On the other hand, the mentalist approach, or sometimes called Cartesian dualism, suggests that a person is fundamentally a thinking being, or soul, or a consciousness. Here the body is seen as secondary, just a vessel for the mind. But Strawson says both these views miss the point because they try to reduce persons to something else. He argues that neither the body alone nor the mind alone defines a person. It is the combination of the two held together in a single, inseparable concept that truly captures what it means to be a person. So to wrap it all up, Strawson's theory of persons as basic particulars shifts our understanding of what is fundamental. He argues that personhood is not something we can break down into simpler parts. It's a concept that lies at the core of our experience and our relationships with others. By viewing persons as irreducible, Strawson challenges us to reconsider how we view ourselves and others. So we're not just minds floating in bodies, nor are we just bodies animated by thoughts. We are persons through and through, a concept that sits at the heart of how we understand reality itself. Thanks for joining me in exploring Strawson's fascinating insights on personhood and metaphysics. I hope this gave you a clearer view of why the concept of a person is so central and how it shapes the way we see the world. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Strawson's ideas, don't forget to like and subscribe for more philosophical explorations. See you next time.